All right, welcome everyone. Hello everyone. Just let us know if you can hear us well. Best if you could do it in the chat box. I think we could easily even a raised hand. Yes, questions. Um, Honestly, we are not going to be able to give you an opportunity to actually, you can just write us. It's fine. Okay, we've got some positive feedback about the technicalities. Thank you, Bart. Thank
Good.
you, Dorian. Okay, let's take one more minute, 30 seconds literally, for others to join.
Yeah, so maybe a quick thing that we can say right now. So guys, the chat is probably, I'm not sure, but it might be a little bit messy in the chat. So if there are any questions that you'd really like us to answer, you also have the option to go into the Q&A section. So if there's any questions, just put them in there. It's going to be just easier for us to sort through it and then go one by one through the questions.
Exactly, thank you for reminding that. I'll just do one more thing actually. I'm not sure if it changes anything like vision for you. Does that change anything? Give me a sec, honestly. Because I'm trying to figure out one thing, because it's kind of crucial. All right, we'll have to actually bear with no notes whatsoever. I think the presenter's mode has stopped actually responding, which is the quality.
Function F5, I'd say. Oh no, you have
No, it's
Apple. Okay, cool.
Okay, back again. All right.
Yes, it's fine.
Let's get started then. Hello everyone again. We've got already got a question. We've got already the question from Krzysztof. Yes, the meeting will be recorded, but please stay with us because there's going to be a lucrative offer for you. I'm joking. You're going to get something really valuable when it comes to learning English. So
there's a pro tip from me. If you want the recording, I bet if you don't stay, you're just not gonna watch it. People normally don't do that.
Exactly. Bear it in mind, Krzysztof. So stay with us, please. It's going to be a fun hour. We promise not to exceed the time, unless you have so many questions that we would be simply so happy to answer your questions. Then, okay. We're meeting here to actually show you how to improve your English to a level that makes working in a Scrum team comfortable. But it's very important so that you don't spend years working on your English, but learn what is really needed, necessary, and must have, not a nice to have thing when it comes to operating in this language. All right, I'm Przemysław Fidzina.
And my name is quite long, so I'm going to say it very, very slowly. Karolina Tanikowska.
All right. And we're going to be both to be hosts in this very training. Okay, let's begin with a very important message. So you can actually decide now if you have signed up by kind of a random click, if it's really for you, and if you want to really spend this hour with us. So the very webinar is for you if you need English for work almost every day, but it doesn't need to be the case. The frequency is not that important there because may change in the future. It may change as you progress, as you get ahead in your career. The other thing which may be interesting for you is if your technical English is okay, but talking to business people is tough and stressful, that's another case. Stay with us, please. Bear in mind that it's gonna be just helping you, I hope. And the third thing, if you keep on using the same words, phrases, terminology, and you don't feel that you're improving, moving on along, just the kind of development, you may learn some techniques how to, upgrade your English. And as a manager, if you're a manager here and you think, oh, my team has quite an even level, we've got quite an even level of English in the team, you may kind of help them. You may kind of get some tips how to help your guys. And the fifth group is actually for those who are wondering if Scrum teams really need different English, different sort of English than other frameworks. And we'll elaborate on that in this webinar. As promised, if you stay with us today until the very end, you're going to get an ebook on 36 English phrases for daily scrums. Is that correct, Karolina? Daily scrums. This is the new thematics of what used to be stand-ups.
Yep. So we had to before the actual webinar, we were discussing that with Przemek, and like the old word for that would be a stand-up, which is actually not incorrect. It's simply one of the techniques that you can use, but the event itself is called a daily scrum. So
all right,
that's already something that they need to work on in their ebook, so that the name it actually again is updated.
Yeah, it's very difficult to catch up, honestly. It was just good a few months ago, and now, oh my gosh. So the rapid change, agility, you've got to be agile, you're everywhere. Okay, what makes this webinar different from any other I hope you've attended so far when it comes to English or Scrum, anything? The very important thing is that, without a shadow of a doubt, we have an expert here when it comes to Scrum Mastering. So Scrum Mastering sounds familiar, kind of matches. And Karolina, can you tell us about yourself? Just a few words,
okay.
If you could.
So real quick about myself. So again, my name is Karolina, and I'm a Scrum Master right now, but actually the way I started with IT or in IT was thanks to Przemek, and that was because he introduced me to IT companies that actually needed English skills, especially business related English skills, right, in their daily work. And this is how I actually got started. I got all hooked. And then just changed my career from being a translator, teacher, whatever you call it, to a trainer, and then to a Scrum Master. So I'm certified by Scrum.org. If anybody would like to also get certified, this is the one organization that I really, really recommend for that. That's
Scrum.org, yeah, Scrum.org. Yeah, this is the ultimate source of learning. I've just wanted to reach for the Scrum guide, which is always next to me, everywhere at my home, and it's from Scrum.org, as far as I believe it's there as well. Okay, a few words about me. 12 years in business English training, 8 years of running CoAction. We actually graduated from the same applied linguistics, but Karolina graduated from it was the combination of German
English.
German English, not English German. It's very important, because kind of important. But actually, you use English in most cases, don't you?
That is true.
Okay, mine was English Russian, and I've been also certified, but in a bit of a different area, just business English training. But another thing that what we want to show is actually based on our experience working with the IT teams, because across the career, let's say as part of running CoAction, we've been able to. It's difficult to count honestly, but I think it's over 300 people from IT in general have been trained by us successfully, I could say, to improve their language skills. 25 plus IT businesses have already trusted us. Actually, it's a rough number again. We don't want to change it all over the time because it's kind of a developing thing. 35 qualified teachers who know the stuff. When it comes to English, teaching English and IT, also thanks to Karolina, who has recently been our trainer, kind of passing over some knowledge from the IT industry to our teachers to get them acquainted with the kind of communicative needs of the IT industry, but people, like industry is the people, in fact. Uh, Many training hours, I wouldn't count them. But the numbers, some people say that the numbers speak for themselves. Others say, these are just numbers, do something for me and I'll check this out. And that's very important. This is why you just, at the very end of this webinar, you're going to have an opportunity to test this out. But it's never been like, it's never an easy path to kind of train yourself in something. Karolina, you know it the best. And when it comes to, there's an English saying, you live and learn. Most probably you may feel what it means, but it's not the fact that you learn. In fact, I would say that our experience is based on the good things and the bad moments, let's say, because at the very beginning, when IT guys, not only IT specialists, used to come to us and they told us, we need grammar. Oh, thank you. Yeah, sure, we can do it. Let's do it. Just well, improve your grammar. Let's do the exercise. We need conversations with native speakers. Definitely, of course, Przemek said, I will help you. We will help you. Let's figure it out immediately. We need this and that. We blindly followed what people who don't know how to learn languages, they have mastered some English, but they kind of had some, superstition, maybe not superstitions, but, kind of feeling, kind of like, I want to learn this and that, this is what I need. And in many cases, when following this blindly, we ended up with not so much satisfactory progress. And today, actually, I'm going to share you a few lessons also that we have learned across those years. Because actually we started, let's say, teaching for good with one software house. Karolina was one of the pioneers. And back again, it was a few good years ago, over 5 now, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of, we used to teach back then some IT professionals, but when it comes to touching and feeling the business from the inside, treating, learning about the IT industry needs, it was a kind of a game changer, I would say. And since then, we have kind of developed our expertise in the field. But what I'm going to share with you is not a quick fix solution. Actually, most probably, you know what a quick fix solution may mean easily from the code development, from software development. And surprise, surprise, the definition by dictionaries says that quick fix solutions are a quick fix solution seems to be a fast and easy solution, but at the end of the day, it's not very good and will not last very long. So it's a very important message now. We are not going to give you any quick fix solutions because we don't want to put you in trouble further on. We're going to give you some techniques, tactics that have worked for many, but they don't need to work for you. You need to test it out. You need to actually maybe ask your friends, but the best thing, if you check it out by simply, you will have a chance to do that. I'll tell you later on. You've heard about quick fix solutions, Karolina?
Oh,
in
absolutely.
IT.
Quick and dirty does the trick.
Quick and dirty, yeah.
For a moment. So, for a moment.
And the magic happens now, and the magic fades away slowly but surely. Karolina, your turn, I think. Yes, this is your stuff, isn't it?
All right, that is more or less true, I'd say. So, guys, this is actually something that when we were a few hours ago, we were discussing with Przemek. Okay, how is really Agile and Scrum? Can we say that we can in any way compare it with learning any language, or does it have anything in common? And it actually does. When you think about it, when you think about achieving different, let's call them levels, because this is more or less what they are. levels and skills, I'd say, because we're thinking mostly about what I can do in a given language, right? This is a very much of an incremental and iterative approach, right? Just like with software development in Scrum, because one thing is you're going to be at at a certain level, and then within that level, you're going to learn some certain skills that can help you, and then you build up on that, and the more you build up, you become more fluent, but also you can participate in many situations. So this is why I say it's very much incremental and iterative, and just like, wow, like, why didn't I think about that before? That's just so obvious. So thing that's super important to me is that in Scrum, business people and developers, they must work together on a daily basis, right? It cannot be that you have a handoff of requirements, and then this phase is done, and then the business is gone, and the business analysts are gone, and then you have your developers. You just put them into one room and then develop. Nothing happens. Nothing ever happens. No communication happens, and then they churn out something, and then you give it to the business, and then the business says, well, this is not actually what we wanted, right? So in order to avoid that kind of situation, you try to put your business people and your tech people together. So that means they need a way to communicate with one another. And you wouldn't believe how difficult that can be. Even if you speak the same language, even if you speak Polish, that is extremely difficult sometimes to get the developers and the business to speak the same language. So that is the first thing where I think really Scrum and English learning, or just language learning, is very similar actually. The other thing is that when you think of teachers or lecturers, whatever you want to call them, those people also need to give the right tools to their students, right? Not just any tools, but the tools that will make the process of building software or of learning a language easy, nice, and effective, right? The same kind of thing in software development. And then obviously, that is so much, I just cannot stress it enough. Face-to-face communication is the key. Really, there's nothing better than face-to-face communication. That's why it's so important also to not just read or listen. Obviously, these are also important things to do when you're learning, right? But also to have somebody that you can actually talk to and try out what you have learned, right? Even if it's not perfect, this is also not the goal to be perfect. The goal is to practice, to see if it works, and then to improve based on that, right? Based on feedback. Again, we have a good feedback loop, short one, and this is how you also learn. Same with software. You develop, you release it, see what happens, if people like it or not, and then you decide on the next steps, right? Obviously, simplicity, that is pretty much, self-explanatory. This is very essential, that we do not overcomplicate, we do not overdo certain things, because we don't have to. We really don't have to. With technical people, it's very easy for them to overdo and just to, start explaining the whole thing. And then if you look at the faces of your audience, if you have one tech guy and the rest is not that techy, then you're going to have people like, what is he saying? WTF is happening in here? I do not understand the thing, right? So simplicity is the key. That's why you also need to think of certain language that those people will use, right? And then self-organizing teams, because, and that is also important, not only in development, but when I think about learning, that the learner comes with the needs. It's not just the program that somebody will build, right, for you to go through a certain point, to go certain steps, and this means, yes, I have mastered this or that, but you also come with what you need, and based on that, you can really build up a learning program that works for you. I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you very much for explaining why you have brought up actually the Agile Manifesto here when it's meant to be about English. Yeah, there are some relations, as you can see, between agility and communication, and communication in many global teams is English, and English is a tool for communication, needs to be adjusted. And why don't you just learn English in the agile way, kind of, make your English agile as a way, in a way. Okay, but in practice, what would it mean? Our first tip is actually that you approach your English development, so developing, progressing, improving, and so on, as a project. So treat it as a project, as any other project in your life, in your work, for example. Why is that so important? Because if you keep on, let's say, using language, if you keep on, okay, unless you want to spend really years on learning, mastering English, you just may need to decide that, okay, I need English for very specific purposes. It can be a different purpose for a different person, because you may be at different stages of your career. You may be at the stage in which you are just joining a team, a Scrum team, in which your only role would be, your only role which you could perform in English would be presenting or actually taking part in daily scrums. Yeah, is that correct? Daily scrums. And in this case, you may just need to master and be perfect so that you don't slow down the team, so that you feel comfortable in those kind of meetings, a certain limited piece of English for the very purpose. I'll give you an example. And when it comes to approaching English as a project, it's very important at the very beginning, at the, let's say, handover, when you come to us, for example, or when you start learning with any other school teacher, anyone, it's very important to assess your current state, to know what you know, so that it's a great foundation for building on that, building upon that. And you need to assess what you don't know. But if you look at the very scale from A1 to C2, C2 is proficiency, A1 is the very beginning of learning a language. You may count up and you can see that it's 1,500 hours to get you to C2. It's a lot of time, isn't it? Sounds longish, doesn't it? You can just chat us up and say, if it sounds longish, 1,500 hours.
Unless you really like it.
Unless you really like it, unless you have time for that. But to be honest, most people who start developing or improving, working on their English as adults have very limited time, have really limited time as a resource. So what we need to do is actually be able to, at the very beginning, assess your level of English against the various typical business communication situations that you need. One example could be a daily. So what we need to do is check how you perform in a daily, how you could perform in a daily meeting in English. Right now, ad hoc, live, do it, show me. Based on that, the stress level situation, this is a sort of a thing that shows in most cases the real life performance. Then we are able to assess what needs to be improved, and we plan for that, and then we test it again. And that's very important. And what happens next, you have to, as in a good project, you need to define the scope of what you want to focus on. So if it's a daily only, or you have to look into the future, and you may feel, oh no, I know that in my company, it's not about dailies, like developers are also involved. What else can they be involved, Karolina? Retros?
Could
Can
be.
it happen? Yeah, things like that. Any other interactions with the client, they may need to ask for some clarification of requirements.
Yes.
And things like that, yeah?
Przemek, I think it would be good to maybe give the example of one of still students and actually my
Mhm.
former student from
Oh,
one of the
okay. All
companies.
right. Bring
Yes,
it up then. Bring it up then. I think it's right on time. Uh, Talking about Mariusz?
yes, I am. I
All
think
right.
he's a very good example of somebody who f- didn't think about his English. At first, I guess that he just needed it for like daily communications with the team, nothing else. He was just a developer right now. And if I'm not mistaken, he is a CTO right now of that company. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's quite a
Yeah.
development, I would say. Very, very steep career path, yeah.
Exactly. And I remember like when we first started, that was really, no, it was just, it was slow. Come on, let's be honest, it was slow. We had to work on loads and loads and loads of stuff, right? But then as he progressed, you could see that because he was so good in other fields, his boss said, okay, now I need you to be the team lead, or now I need you to be something else. And this is where you think about learning English as a project, then you can think of, okay, like the first stage is what I need on a daily basis, but then something might change, meaning
Exactly.
I might need to use English in different sort of situations. And then again, something changed, and he had to improve that so that he would be, fluent on presentations or talking to customers, on winning the customers, and so on and so forth. So when you
In
think
fact,
about English like that, this is where it really makes sense. Okay, let's think about
yeah,
phases.
exactly. Some future development. Actually, to update you a bit on that, on the story, true. Mariusz, from being a developer, he he became a senior developer. I think also learning with you at the time.
Maybe.
Um, I think it was the time also when they decided that he has to have a team leader role. It is very important, to know that it is very important to mention. I think that the team itself was international because it included members of not only Polish speaking members. So it wasn't not only about the communication within the client, like with clients, but also within the team. And being a team leader for a group of people who you manage and you actually need to speak on a daily basis, they really spoke English and on a daily basis, needs a different sort of English. Needs English for one-to-ones, it needs English for being able to, give feedback in a great way and things like that. And, you need softening, you need to soften your language. And that kind of, iteratively, as you said, we were trying to introduce to Mariusz because he had to learn from the basic communication, wrap it around, wrap it up with some business communication, and then with the managerial communication, and again to the CTO level where you have to more, for example, negotiate the scope, negotiate with clients, what's doable, what's not, what's doable for my team as well. And that's a very good story that you've brought up. But it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't have happened actually uh, if we hadn't actually, been able to plan well what he actually needs at those whole stages. Because as in every project, you need to define the scope of what you want to learn, what you want to, some kind of forecast, let's say, yeah, of what you want to focus on. And based on our experience, let's say we have developed some kind of a list. It's a part of it's a part of a development plan where you actually have a number of typical for IT business communication situations which you need to not only you don't see only a list. It's very important. I couldn't show you actually the whole training outline, as we call it, so the training plan, this training document, but one very important element there, next to the right, uh, is that you need to prioritize. You need to prioritize what is the most important for you. So, what could be the MVP of your English? So, what is the satisfactory element? What could be the satisfactory, let's say, piece of English that you want to learn? Another thing is, in this number of situations where you have participating in status update reporting, daily scrums, for example, negotiating the scope and things like that, it concerns different roles. We need to consider that as well. But what's even more important is that defining the scope you say what you need, but our teachers, and it's very important so that your teachers, if you're learning already, uh, trying to improve your English, know what, for example, reporting in a daily Scrum means in terms of the grammar structures that you need to use for this specific purpose. Because in daily Scrums, for example, you may need just, present perfect, past simple, and we're talking about what's been done, what was done the last day. You may need some other structures for talking about what you are doing now, and think some other structure for what you can be doing in the future, what you're going to do in the future. So grammar, functional language, vocabulary, this all stands behind the kind of a buzzword, buzz phrase we can say, participating in daily Scrums. You don't need to know it. Your teachers should know it. Your teachers should know what it actually involves and plan around that so that you are able immediately to jump on this retrospective, maybe on a discovery call with your client. And that's a very important thing in planning. Karolina has mentioned what actually has been planned to be mentioned.
Oh, sorry.
Right here. But I would only add one more story. Okay, it's very important to, as you said, in the case of from dev to CTO, so it was the case of Mariusz, and when we very closely worked with the CEO of the company, the size of this company actually allowed for that. But in the bigger companies, we usually work with the HR, or simply we work, if you come to us, directly, we work with you on planning what you may need now and what you may need English in the future for. And that's a very important thing to kind of plan so that the English development, so the things that we take from this whole English, the elements that we take and grab, move from the backlog of English, let's say, into your sprints.
Przemek learned some words.
Yeah, actually, I'm a keen learner of the things, so you need to check me soon.
I will.
It's very important. We are using actually some Scrum. You need to actually come, I think, and check us there at CoAction, how you are doing with that. With a limited version, I think it's a kind of a Scrum, Kanban, waterfall kind of thing. So, lots of work on that. But anyway, planning. Yeah, planning. We talked about planning.
Yes.
Planning means planning for the future, planning for now. So it is crucial to actually be able to some chat. Scrum
Don't
bot.
worry.
Exactly.
This is something that I was talking about lately.
Yeah, Scrum bots. That might be the case, honestly. Okay.
Moving on.
Planning, long-term planning. Moving on. Exactly. Time to move on.
Yes, I am timing you, so.
Great. TTT. Sounds familiar?
It does, almost like TDD.
TDD, exactly. You have TDD, we have TTT. Test, teach, test. What does it mean? In order to measure your progress, we need to test you, how you're able to perform in this daily retrospective discovery meeting now. But we need to put it in the very context, so give you a scenario in which you actually are able to show us how you're able to perform now. We need to observe how you're performing, give you the feedback, split it into smaller parts, because, saying that you haven't managed very well in the daily Scrum says nothing actually and gives you nothing. But knowing that you haven't mastered this and that tense specifically to be able to actually talk about what you've done, that's more important. To be able to show you and splitting into smaller tasks, into smaller elements, what sort of vocabulary you need, this happens in the teaching part, in the practice part. And it's very important to simulate and test what we have taught you, what you've been trained with us, with anyone. It's very important to test it again to check the difference. How does it sound to you, Karolina?
Well, to me, especially the simulation part That is super, super duper crucial. This is where you can actually, so first, obviously, you have to learn something, and then in a controlled environment, you can try that out
Control.
with a teacher, right? Let's say first with a teacher, then
Mhm.
later on you go to the real life situation, and then you already know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Maybe there's things that you could that you can improve even before that. So a controlled situation where you simulate a real life situation is really, really the key, because this is the safe environment where you can train.
It's very important. Yeah, we call it incubation. It's sort train it at home with your teacher, online or wherever, or just train it at home. But training is not enough. Training is not enough because what you need, in fact, to be able to progress, you need to always reflect on what you're learning and how you're learning. It's very, you can't expect actually. Imagine that let's say you're watching just, okay, you're talking, you're having conversations in English and with anyone. And you think that when you're talking about, let's say, some people think that, when you keep talking about a general topic, some interests, something which is, kind of news related things and so on, uh, kind of magically, you'll be able to transfer these skills onto the project meetings, for example. It may be the case when it comes to fluency. You may practice some fluency there, but fluency is also very strictly related to vocabulary, so the range of vocabulary which you have. If you haven't practiced, if you haven't focused during your learning process on the right vocabulary, which you need actually for the specific purpose of participating in some project meetings, you are unlikely to use it correctly, properly, and simply to know that vocabulary in the meetings with clients or with your team. We are talking about also how you're learning. It's very important to reflect on how. And by how you're learning, we mean it is just conversations. If you get any feedback from the teacher, if you do anything with this feedback, because feedback which is unused improperly or at all um, recycled, we call it in teaching, is nonsense because this you will forget it. You'll forget it immediately. You'll forget all the mistakes and so on. We have a certain system actually of working. It's in Polish, sorry for that. But I wanted just to show you that there are certain steps in each and every lesson which need to be covered for you in order to learn a specific range of vocabulary and in order to improve specific elements of your English, be it grammar, vocabulary, language for functions, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't actually deep dive here into this process, but I wanted just to show you that how planning is important, and there is a kind of a cycle. If you work in cycles, you're able to actually um, retrospectively look at what you've been learning uh, at your English course. And I was just going to show you some snaps of our one of our tools, which is training report, where we actually note down in the input section. We note down two things: feedback and useful phrases. The feedback part is related to, for example, the situation in which you have to perform, for example, in front of a teacher, your daily scrum, and the teacher gives you the feedback, correcting you, giving you the language upgrade, so not only correcting but improving our English. And the other part is useful phrases, where you actually have to focus on something which may bring your vocabulary to a different level. So learning something new, it could be, it's a random thing, some of you may need this, some of you may not need that. But what is very important is uh, that it's there. I mean, that you practice that, because in the output section, you need to practice that. I'm not going to elaborate any more on that. Karolina, how does it sound to you? Do you feel maybe you can actually give us some notes. Let us know on chat if you feel if you're catching up simply.
So I remember that back in the day, when we used to do that as well. And actually, this makes sense simply because this puts a certain expression into the perspective of the learner, which is great because language is, it's contextual, meaning if there's just, a phrase somewhere there and you just need to memorize it, you're going to forget that. What that gives you, that report, is that once you need to build a sentence for yourself, preferably this is a sentence that you would actually use in the real life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This makes it so much more memorable, not just memorized, memorable, right? Meaning the path to get there, right, to get to the expression is way easier for you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I wanted to compare it actually to something like the feedback is something like a code review, isn't it? Something like, checking your code by code, I mean language, your English. So
That's
what's
also
good,
true.
what's bad, what to improve, giving you feedback. Oh, yeah. But in code review, I believe it's very important to give very precise, let's say, corrections. Yeah, like to actually improve it.
And you just give notes to the second developer. Oh, I would do
Exactly.
blah 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 and maybe blah blah blah. So this is
Yeah,
more or less also what happens in here, right? Because
exactly.
somebody provides a sentence and then together you check, okay, this sentence work or it doesn't work. Maybe we could improve on that, blah.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on. A very important aspect.
No,
Karina,
I have a story. I have a
yeah,
story. Is this the time for the story?
this best describes all, I think. So
Okay.
please do.
So this is a story from my current company. We have a very difficult legacy-based, I'd say, project. And so the project is super, super technical, like extremely technical. Plus, it's super important, but it's not extremely interesting or entertaining, right? And so we had to develop an implementation plan for all that. So obviously, we had to communicate that together with one of our developers, and our PO had to communicate that to our stakeholders, to people in the company who pull the strings, right? So they came, and my product owner or our product owner didn't used to be that technical. Now he has learned a lot simply by, talking to the devs all the time, right? Just again communicating with them on a daily basis. So that is maybe also important. It's a two-way communication. It's not just the devs learning the business language, it's also the business learning at least the basics of the tech language, so that some common phrases are understandable, right? So we know what we're talking about. But coming back to the story itself, so we come up with this plan, we present it, and then we get a bunch of questions. Nobody's sure if we can actually pull it out, right? They're just like, I'm not sure if it's going to work. What are you going to do in this and that kind of situation? Where are you going? What's going to happen to this? Blah blah blah. I have still doubts, and so on and so forth. So we could see that talking just in technical terms was really difficult for them to follow. So we had to have a follow-up session, actually, to make them understand what's really gonna happen, right? Because either we do that or we don't do the project or something else happens. So what we did was that we had a few slides, or just diagrams. Diagrams are actually really, really good, because it's really easy to understand with pictures. It's easy to follow when there's pictures, and it's also easy for the presenter to explain something using pictures and not just words. So we put that all into a nice diagram, and we also used a story. So this was all about
Storytelling.
yes, exactly. So we used a story for how our future users, or the users right now, and we even gave the user that we wanted to use the same name as our PO to make it, even closer to life kind of situation. Um, so we have a story, and we tell them the story that what's going to happen is that this user is going to putting his name into this and that form, right? And in the past, what would happen is that the form would go somewhere, somewhere, somewhere. I can't also give you too much detail on that, right? company stuff. And then we also explained, but the future will look like this, that the user, let's call him, I don't know, Tom will put his initials here, and this is how they're going to land in the main database. And once we explain it that way, everybody was just like, aha, okay, now I get it. And that is why it's so crucial to get both sides closer together so that they communicate with at least a basic level of tech vocabulary, but also being able to explain what it means, what is the gain from that, what is the benefit. Uh, we call it the benefit language. If you speak as a technical person, if you can talk benefit language to your business, this is where you're gonna just, you're gonna win them over. Easy
Yeah,
as
exactly.
that.
I think nowadays with this agile approach, thank you for this for bringing it up, because I think that what is very important in the agile way and the Scrum way of running project is that developers have become closer, much closer to the business, let's say, world. Business owners, let's say, of the project. And would you agree, Karolina, with me that nowadays, even if you're a top-notch developer with great stack, superb experience, but no communication skills, and you just drop, some kind of, buzzwords in terms of the technical language, uh, you're not the most valuable person in the team, first things first, not most valuable actually person on the market.
That is definitely correct. And I um let me just say that we had a similar situation, where we actually could not keep a person in the team because of that reason, right?
Because of that reason, yeah.
So I cannot really go into too much detail on it, but believe me that being able to communicate properly is super crucial.
In
Super
English,
crucial.
in that case,
Especially
as well.
if you're on a team, especially.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I've got. I'm going to just give you one more story, in fact, here, because it reminds me of one of the recent clients of ours. It's a global Silicon Valley company, and this was one of the first projects, honestly, for the non-Polish guys. I mean, non-Polish IT guys. It ended up with the fact that we started actually improving the skills, but not so much English. That was a funny thing at the end of the day. But okay, I'll come back to that later on, of non-Polish guys. But their team leaders actually approached us with a typical inquiry. We need to improve the English of our tech guys. Okay. Something touched me immediately. It's a global company. They are not Polish, and they need to improve English, considering that they employ mostly very experienced people with really global experience. Why do they need to improve English? What's wrong with the grammar, vocabulary, maybe some functional language, pronunciation? Do they care about accent? I said, okay, let's check, let's assess your level of communication, but tell me what you need actually English in most cases for, what your developers actually need English for in most cases. Scratching their heads, they came to a conclusion. Demo presentations. Hello, this is one of the most difficult things to do for them. What we did is we checked how they are able to perform demo presentations. We assessed their pre-English grammar. We did an audit. We call it an audit, linguistic audit. So we put them in the scenario of a demo presentation. They had to actually bring it up, show it, how they are able to do it now. We checked that against grammar, vocabulary, cohesion, coherence, difficult words. So logical, how you logically sound, how you move between slides. If you really move between slides, if you don't have any slides, you don't need any slides. How you move between your thoughts. And it turned out literally that their English communication is at the C1 level, all of them practically. What they needed actually was that they were not able to convey, and that was the main remark which the team leaders got from the business. They were not able to convey the very technical terms into the language of benefits. So what we started doing with them was actually teaching them how to present, having in mind who you present to, how you present to, and how to do it in English, because of course it needs English. It needs specific phraseology to be moved between slides, to draw attention of the audience and so on and so forth. But without that knowledge, we would have taught them most probably, grammatical structures or things like that. Very advanced, most probably, because we had known that it was C1. But would it help them so much? Would that help in your case? It wouldn't. It was just about business communication, communicating with business. Okay, business communication may be too ambiguous. I have Karolina, do you want to add anything?
Przemko, I just wanted to mention that we have 8 minutes.
We are closely nearing the end because we've got only a few slides to move on. I'm just checking if there's nothing crucial to actually come up now. Yeah, I think I'll just sum it up that, technical language is very important. Technical English is very important. In most cases, when people come to us, in fact, they don't need to improve technical English. So English for AT is not about the technical language that much. Of course, if you're a junior and you're not acquainted with that so much, we may help you with that. But in most cases, it's about the way you communicate technical concepts to business and the way you communicate in between meetings, or you want to understand, for example, native speaking clients. And this includes, idiomaticity, the way they speak, lots of other things which are related to understanding. Okay, no more on that. What's next? Yes. We've given you some tips, we've given you some knowledge, as much as we've been able to actually to squeeze in within literally 53 minutes. And you could leave it like that. You could just, go have a nice dinner or lunch wherever you are, because we have not only people from Poland. But you can also take one step further. In fact, you may be feeling as one of those guys who have already trusted us.
Say hello from me to them.
Sure, no problem. The next time we meet them, not even face to face, I think that's difficult. You may feel that, it's impossible. It has been impossible in the case, for example, of visuality. But some of their clients simply have openly admitted that they chose them because of great level of English, but it's very important, consistent across the entire team. They invested a lot of money and time in that, and it paid off. It's at immediate. It was a kind of the thing that it simply paid off for them. Another thing that you may feel, if you're an HR person, if you keep listening to complaints about how English lessons are run. Agnieszka had a case like that since we started working with them. I'm not going to boast about it, but it's all about some small details to actually improve, to give people what they actually can use in their business communication life. And you may feel also as Grzegorz, who it's one of the funniest honestly reviews we've had, I think. He said that it's best invested money and time ever, despite the fact that he is very lazy and he in fact hates learning at home. He was able to actually jump from something like the middle of the scale honestly to a very strong C1. Yeah, which opened actually his career, in fact. Yeah, we got also Shakir here with a very complex statement that he noticed some other things apart from, grammar, vocabulary, and so on. Karolina in person used to help him with presenting. So kudos for you. Okay, brands, names, and things. You can have a look at them. You don't need to. You can go to our website. As you can see, we kind of specialize in the IT industry, but it's, brands means people, because I know that some of you and most of you simply need English themselves, want to invest in themselves. And that's very important to have a chance to actually check out if you've got anything that could help your English. So what am I going to do? What you can do now is actually, I'm going to copy paste it now in the chat, this link, because you're going to sign up for the demo of how we can help you, and you can actually test it out on yourself. If it works for you, if it doesn't, it may not need to work for you. It may not need to. You may need to feel that it's not the thing that you want to deep dive on. It's very important to test it out. There are facts that, there are people who it helped so much, but the best thing is, yes, sign up for a demo. Let me just actually, I need to change it. I'm going to get back to the minimized icon, the minimized window, I mean. And this is a Calendly link, so best if you just click on it and, sign up. I'm just looking for the chat functionality now. Here it is. It's in the chat. It's in the Q&A, unless you just in case you can't find it. And we've got some time for Q&A, 2-3 minutes. Actually, it's the right time actually to ask us any questions. Best if you could just simply type them in the Q&A section. All right, sorry, I just see I've made a mistake and I've sent it to one person only, and you should have it now. Can you see it now?
I can see it.
Yep.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, it's all right now. It's all right now because in the very fast iteration, I've just posted it and sent it to Gosia or Magda or someone.
Gosia says she can see it, but I can, so that's kind of funny. Check Q&A maybe. Krzysztof says thanks, so it seems like it's there. Przemek, can't you? Sure you are.
Someone is a super typo. I mean, super fast typing person. So thank you, Łukasz. Okay, so can you see it now? I'm just not sure. It's there. Okay,
yes,
thanks. No worries, Gosia. All right. Okay, I think some question is coming up from Mateusz. So let's wait for it. We've got some. I thought I was special, Krzysztof. Yeah, you're special, definitely. Great that you're with us anyway until the very end. So congratulations for staying with us. Yes. So yeah, any questions?
Not sure if there are any questions. Can't see anything at the moment.
Yeah. Mateusz just said hello. I'm not sure if he's leaving. Okay. I think we've got the link, so you can share it. If you do have any questions, please raise them just now, because literally in 2 minutes, we're going to say goodbye, and take our time to get ready for some.